They say a hooded monk still wanders the stone halls of Nidaros Cathedral, clutching the wound on his neck as if death never quite finished what it started. I had always believed old churches held echoes of the past, but at Nidaros Cathedral in Trondheim, the past answers back. There's something about the air in that place, thick, watching, as if the walls remember more than they should. Locals speak quietly about the monk, a shadowed figure seen gliding near the altar after hours, always alone, always with blood seeping through his cowl. Some say he was executed, betrayed within those sacred walls. Others say he never left because something was taken from him, something he's still searching for. I didn't come to Trondheim looking for ghosts. But one night in 2023, after the cathedral had closed, I lingered too long. That's when I heard the organ play, soft, mournful, and completely unplayed by human hands. Then the footsteps began, slow and deliberate, echoing down the nave. I wasn't alone. Whatever haunts Nidaros isn't just a memory. It's aware. And some part of it wants to be seen. Underscore 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 underscore. Nidaros Cathedral stands at the heart of Trondheim like a stone memory, ancient, weathered, and utterly still. Built upon the burial site of St. Olaf nearly 1,000 years ago, the cathedral has long been a place of pilgrimage, but it also carries a weight the locals don't often speak of. By day, it feels majestic, even holy, towering spires piercing the Nordic sky, stained glass windows casting broken light across the worn stone floor. Tourists marvel at its grandeur, priests move quietly through its corridors, and the organ hums under practiced hands. But when the sun sinks below the horizon and the tourists vanish, a different cathedral emerges. At night, the cold thickens inside. Not just the chill of old stone, but something deeper, a damp, creeping cold that settles into your bones like regret. Shadows pool in the corners between columns. The silence becomes heavy, pressing against the skin. Footsteps echo longer than they should, and the great vaulted ceiling feels like it's listening. The scent of old incense still lingers in the air, though no one's burned it for hours. Flickering candlelight dances against statues of saints and angels, casting warped silhouettes on the walls. There's a crypt beneath the cathedral, a low arched chamber of tombs and forgotten relics, but no one goes there alone. The wind, when it moves through the cathedral, sounds almost like a voice. Not quite words, but close. The townspeople speak of a particular corridor near the choir stalls, where the air grows inexplicably warm and the scent of iron drifts in, like blood drying on old cloth. That's where the monk is seen. Just a glimpse. A shape between pillars. The sound of robes brushing stone. Nidaros isn't just haunted by history. It embodies it. And something inside is still waiting, unfinished. My name is Erik Solheim. I'm 41 years old, divorced, and barely keeping my life stitched together with coffee, silence, and late-night work shifts. I came back to Trondheim 2 years ago, not because I wanted to, but because it was the only place left to go. My mother died suddenly, left me her small flat, and I told myself I'd only stay long enough to sell it. But somehow I never left. I work as a night security guard, mostly freelance, mostly uneventful. People don't steal from churches. Or so I thought. When the city assigned me to cover a few night shifts at Nidaros Cathedral, I accepted without hesitation. I needed the money. That's how these stories always start, isn't it? Truth is, I didn't believe in anything. Not since I lost my daughter. She was 8. Brain aneurysm. No warning. One moment laughing, the next silence. After that, faith was just noise to me, something people said to feel better. I didn't pray. I didn't hope. I just existed night after night, in quiet places where no one expected much from me. That first shift at Nidaros felt ordinary. Beautiful, even. But on the third night, I started hearing things, a distant footstep, too steady to be imagination, the low, hollow breath of the organ in the dark, a shape that lingered at the edge of my flashlight beam, too tall to be human, too still to be alive. I told myself it was exhaustion, stress, maybe grief catching up again. But something in me, something I hadn't felt in years, stirred. Not faith. Not yet. But curiosity. Fear, yes. But also a recognition. As if the cathedral, and whatever moved inside it, knew me, was waiting for me. I started staying longer after my shifts ended. Watching. Listening. Part of me wanted answers. The other part just wanted to feel anything again, even if it meant facing something I couldn't explain. I began to believe the stories about the monk, about the blood, about the way time folds in that place. And the more I believed, the more real he became. I'm not sure if I went looking for the ghost or if he came looking for me. They call him Den Bloden Monk, the bleeding monk, though no official record ever names him. No grave bears his full name. No priest dares speak it aloud. He's not part of Nidaros Cathedral's formal history, only whispered folklore passed down through clergy and caretakers who have seen too much. His legend clings to the cathedral like cold smoke, invisible by day, but heavy and choking in the hours after midnight. The story begins in the 13th century, during the turbulent years following the civil wars in Norway. The church was fractured, and whispers of heresy bled into its most sacred halls. According to a banned manuscript kept under lock in the cathedral archives, one only a few scholars have ever seen, a monk named Erik of Lade uncovered a hidden sect operating within Nidaros itself. This group, cloaked in ritual and secrecy, believed that St. Olaf's bones held more than holy power. They believed the relics could grant eternal life if awakened with blood. Erik tried to expose them. Instead, he was silenced. Not excommunicated, not banished, but executed in secret, deep beneath the cathedral, in the old crypt. His throat was slit with a ceremonial dagger, and he was left there, bleeding out beneath the altar he once prayed before. But something went wrong. The sect's ritual was never completed, interrupted before the final words could be spoken. The veil between death and life was torn, but not cleanly. Erik died, but not completely. He wanders still, trapped in a kind of sacred loop, neither ghost nor spirit, but a wound in time, constantly reliving his last breath, eternally searching for the truth he tried to protect. The bleeding monk does not appear to everyone. He reveals himself only to those burdened by guilt, grief, or unresolved loss, people whose own inner wounds mirror his own. He cannot cross the cathedral threshold into light. Daylight weakens his presence. But in darkness, especially near the crypt or the choir stalls where his blood once flowed, his essence thickens. He is often first heard, not seen, through whispers in Old Norse, a language most can't understand, but feel in their bones. The scent of iron accompanies him, followed by a rising warmth that feels utterly out of place in the cold stone halls. The organ sometimes plays by itself when he draws near, echoing the hymn that was sung the night he died, Lux Aeterna. Those who hear it often weep without understanding why. He does not speak. He shows visions, flashes of red-lit stone and shadows kneeling in blood. Those who see him clearly, his face pale, cowl drenched in dark red, report feeling paralyzed, overwhelmed with emotions that are not their own, betrayal, sorrow, fury. Some collapse, others run. A few go missing entirely. The monk is not malevolent in the traditional sense. He does not seek to kill. He seeks completion. His ritual was never finished. His death never sanctified. The blood soaked into the stones of the crypt is still bound to the cathedral, and through it to him. He wants release, either through truth finally spoken aloud, or through someone willing to finish what he could not. But here lies the danger. To help him is to invite him in. And once he touches your soul, he leaves a mark. Those who try to help often begin to change, sleepwalking, speaking in dead languages, drawing cathedral floor plans they've never seen. The monk needs a vessel, and sometimes he chooses one. The myth of the monk reflects deeper Scandinavian folklore, where death is not always final, and places of worship can become traps for souls undone by unfinished vows. He shares echoes with the Veatir, spirits tied to land and blood, and the Draugr, undead beings cursed to walk until justice is done. But the bleeding monk is more subtle, more tragic. He is not a monster. He is a memory, cursed to repeat itself, and in doing so, distort the minds of those who dare to look too closely. His presence is not just haunting, it is contagious. And now that Erik has seen him, the monk sees him too. The first night, Erik feels it before he sees anything. He's finishing his walkthrough around 2:30 a.m., flashlight cutting across the dark pews when the beam flickers, just once. Nothing out of the ordinary, just old wiring, he tells himself. Then, from deep in the cathedral's heart, a faint knock echoes. Rhythmic. 4 beats. Silence. 4 more. Like someone knocking from beneath the floor. Erik pauses by the stone arch leading to the crypt, a place the staff warned him not to enter alone. He doesn't, but he lingers. The air changes. The cold he's used to in the cathedral becomes warm. Too warm, heavy like the breath of something close. Then he hears it, a soft whisper in Old Norse, a language he doesn't understand, but it curls in his ear like an old memory. He tells himself it's the wind, that it's just a story. But as he locks up that night, he feels it, something watching from behind the stained glass saints. By the third night, sleep is broken and restless. Erik dreams of blood, not gory or violent, but steady, rhythmic dripping echoing in vast stone corridors. He wakes at 4 a.m. in his own bed, cold sweat soaking his back and dried streaks of red on his hands. He panics, rushes to the bathroom. It's just rust from the old pipes. Has to be. Back in the cathedral, he's walking past the altar when his flashlight flickers again. This time, it doesn't recover. Darkness closes in thick, suffocating. Then music. The organ. Playing Lux Aeterna, slow and mournful. But the cathedral's organ hasn't worked in years, and no one is there to play it. He stares into the shadows and sees a shape move across the nave. A call? A pale hand pressed to a wound that never heals. And for the first time, Erik doesn't feel alone in his grief. That night, he dreams of a corridor under the cathedral, one he's never seen before, lined with stone doors sealed with wax. Erik returns. He tells himself he's just finishing the job. But he brings a flashlight, a notebook, and his daughter's photo, something to ground him. The monk has not shown himself in full since that last night, but the visions are growing. This time, Erik descends into the crypt. The temperature doesn't drop, it rises. He follows the scent of iron and incense to a wall where the stone looks newer, like it was rebuilt centuries ago. He presses his hand to it, and the hymn begins again, faint, as if from another time. The wall trembles under his touch. For a second, he sees it peel away, revealing not stone, but a room lit in red, and figures in robes kneeling around a bleeding man, chanting in an ancient tongue. He sees himself standing there among them, mouth open, speaking words he doesn't know. He collapses. When he comes to, the photo of his daughter is gone. In its place, a smear of fresh blood on the cold floor. Erik doesn't leave. Not really. His body does. He walks out into the daylight, speaks to people, drinks coffee. But part of him is anchored now, pulled back to that stone heart like a tide. The monk has touched something in him, the loss, the guilt, the gnawing belief that he could have done more to save her. He returns on the 7th night, just before midnight, standing before the crypt wall. He holds a knife in one hand and a torn page from the manuscript he stole from the cathedral archive in the other, words that speak of completion, of release. The choice before him is clear and horrifying. Finish the ritual. Spill blood, his own or another's, to release the monk. Or walk away and carry this haunting forever. As he steps toward the wall, the candlelight flickers violently. A shape forms beside him. Not the monk. Something else. Something that feeds on unfinished endings. And Erik realizes, maybe the monk isn't the real threat after all. The true history of Nidaros Cathedral lies not in its gilded altars or public sermons, but in the forgotten corners of its foundation, in the dust-covered hymnals that don't match any known liturgy, and in the sealed ledger Erik found in a locked drawer of the vestry. The book was brittle, bound in blackened leather, with no title on the cover. Inside, it bore a single name again and again, scribbled in the margins in different handwriting over the centuries. Erik A.V. Lade. Beneath his name were fragments of a chant written in both Latin and Old Norse, not hymns, but instructions. Sacramental rites of blood. Each version was slightly altered, as though someone had been trying to perfect it over time. There was mention of the red hour, a cursed window just before dawn when time bends, and the veil between worlds thins. That hour coincides precisely with the moment Erik hears the organ play. Locals know only pieces of the story. A retired sacristan once told Erik that in the 1600s, 3 bishops went mad within the same decade. One had scratched circles into the floor of the choir stall, where the monk is often seen. Another was found wandering the crypt, whispering that he still bleeds beneath the altar. The church buried those accounts, reassigning blame to illness and isolation. But old fishermen speak of something stranger, that before the cathedral was built, the land beneath it was considered sacred by the Sami and early Norse settlers. It was said to be the resting place of a Vader, a spirit of the land who demanded reverence and blood for protection. When the church claimed the land and buried St. Olaf above it, something ancient was sealed below, not destroyed, just buried alive. Now, through Erik's experiences, the pieces are converging, the unfinished ritual, the ancient spirit, the unquiet soul of the monk. They were never separate mysteries. They are layers of the same truth, rotting beneath centuries of denial. The question is no longer if the monk wants release. It's what else will rise with him. The cathedral was utterly still, save for the low groan of wind outside and the hush of Erik's own breath. He stood alone before the sealed crypt wall, candlelight quivering in his trembling hands. The manuscript page was clenched tight in his fist, edges stained with blood, his own. A shallow cut across his palm throbbed in time with the pulse of the cathedral itself. Behind the wall, something stirred. The hymn began again, soft and broken, like a memory being remembered by the stones. Lux Aeterna, the monk's song. Erik could feel him, nearer now than ever. Not just a presence in the dark, but a sorrow curling inside his chest like smoke. He read the words aloud, ancient syllables that scraped against his throat as though they did not belong to the living. The air thickened, and the warmth returned, stifling, intimate, like standing too close to a dying fire. The wall began to sweat, then weep. Thin streaks of blood rolled down the stone. The crypt door creaked open. And standing there, in robes soaked through with centuries of regret, was the monk. Head bowed, hands still pressed to his bleeding neck, eyes empty, yet pleading. He raised a shaking hand and pointed, not to Erik, but to the knife at his feet. Finish it, the gesture said. Complete the rite. Give the blood. Give the release. But Erik didn't move. He saw his daughter then, not a ghost, not a vision, but a memory so sharp it sliced through the moment. Her laughter, her warmth, the way she called his name. The pain he carried wasn't just loss. It was failure. And now the monk was offering him something darker, purpose, at the cost of peace. I'm not your vessel, Erik whispered, voice raw. I won't become what they were. He dropped the knife and stepped back. The hymn faltered. The monk's face twisted, not in anger, but agony. The crypt groaned. Candlelight died. Darkness swept over everything. And when Erik awoke, it was morning. He was lying in the nave alone. The crypt was sealed again, the manuscript gone, but in his palm a smear of fresh blood. And just faintly, echoing from below. The hymn began again. Thanks for sticking with me through this one. I know it was heavier, darker. But stories like these, they stay with you. Maybe that's the point. If you've ever experienced something unexplainable, a sound, a shadow, a moment that didn't quite belong, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Whether it's a whisper in an empty room or a dream that felt too real, your stories are always welcome here. We're all just trying to make sense of the things we're not supposed to understand. If this gave you chills or made you think twice about ancient cathedrals at night, go ahead and like, share, or subscribe. It really helps keep these stories alive and reaching the people who need to hear them. And tonight, when the house gets quiet and the lights go out, listen closely. If you hear organ music from nowhere or footsteps on empty floors, just remember, some rituals were never meant to be finished. Sleep well.